That was what happened to Maria, and she never forgot the sound of that door slamming behind her. The rain hadn't stopped since the funeral. It fell heavy on the black umbrella she couldn't afford, soaking her thin shawl until it clung to her shoulders like grief itself. The farmhouse behind her, once her home, glowed with warm yellow light. Inside, laughter, plates clinking. Her husband's family was already eating dinner as if he hadn't just been buried that morning. Maria stood outside the gate, clutching the last bag they hadn't taken from her. A single leather satchel with her name stitched in faded thread. "Don't come back here," her sister-in-law's voice echoed through the yard. "You've got no claim to anything. My brother's gone, you're nothing now." Nothing. The word cut deeper than the wind. Maria didn't argue, didn't cry. She just stared at the muddy path stretching into darkness, wondering where a widow with no roof, no kin, and no coin was supposed to go. Then she turned slowly, deliberately, and walked away. The rain stopped halfway down the hill. Her shoes were heavy with mud, her eyes swollen from hours of holding back tears. But she didn't break down. Not yet. She looked up at the gray sky. "Lord, give me something," she whispered. "Just something to start again." The wind stirred. Somewhere far off, thunder rumbled like an answer. By the time she reached the village, the lamps were lit. A few shopkeepers watched her pass, the widow of Thomas Hale, the man who'd run the biggest ranch this side of the valley. Everyone knew his name. Few ever knew hers. They whispered as she walked by, eyes shifting from her soaked dress to the shadows under her eyes. "Poor thing, she's finished now. They say his family took everything." Maria kept walking. Their pity meant nothing. But inside that silence, a single thought began to burn. If they took everything, then she'd find out what everything truly meant. She spent that night in a small inn by the edge of town, trading her wedding ring for a room. It hurt to hand it over. That gold band had once meant forever, but now it was only metal. As the innkeeper handed her the key, he hesitated. "You sure you're all right, Mrs. Hale?" She forced a smile. "I'm not Mrs. Hale anymore, just Maria." And she shut the door. She sat by the window that night, staring at the moonlit street, thinking about all the papers Thomas had signed over the years. Contracts, accounts, deeds. She'd seen him walk to the bank every Friday, seen him sign his name with that same confident stroke. Her husband was gone, but his name wasn't. And something in her mind, something sharp, quiet, and dangerous, began to turn. The next morning, Maria walked to the bank. Her shawl was clean now, her hair tied back. The same clerk who'd once greeted her with a polite nod looked at her with surprise. "Mrs. Hale," she smiled softly. "Yes, I just came to check on a few accounts." He hesitated. "I'm sorry for your loss. Would you like to see Mr. Alden, the manager?" She nodded. "Please." Inside the bank's private office, the ticking of the clock filled the air. Mr. Alden, a man with silver hair and a voice like gravel, adjusted his spectacles. "How can I help you today, Mrs. Hale?" Maria placed the worn satchel on the table and opened it slowly. Inside were papers, old, folded, but important. Receipts, letters, signatures, every scrap she'd saved during her husband's dealings. "I need to know," she said, her voice steady, "whose name is on the ranch." Mr. Alden frowned. "Why, please," she interrupted, "just tell me." He scanned the pages, then his brow furrowed. "Well, that's strange." Her heart began to race. He looked up. "It's not in your husband's family's name. These documents, they list a joint ownership." Maria blinked. "Joint? Yes," he said slowly. "Half under Thomas Hale and half under his spouse." The clock ticked louder. The rain outside began again. And for the first time since she'd been thrown out, Maria let herself smile. She leaned back in her chair, fingers tightening around the satchel. They'd called her nothing. They'd taken her home, her name, her dignity. But they'd forgotten one thing: Thomas had trusted her with every paper he signed. And now, that trust was about to change everything. Cliffhanger. Mr. Alden looked up, confused by the quiet fire in her eyes. "Mrs. Hale," he said cautiously, "what do you plan to do now?" Maria stood, gathering the papers. Her voice was calm. "Oh, nothing drastic," she said, turning toward the door. Then she paused, glancing back with a faint, knowing smile. "Just going home." The dirt road to the Hale Ranch was still the same. The same winding stretch between oak trees, the same creaking fence, the same wind carrying the smell of dust and hay. But something inside Maria had changed. Last time she walked this road, she was crying. This time she was smiling, just enough for people to wonder why. When she reached the front gate, the ranch hands froze mid-task. Buckets stopped clanging, whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that Mrs. Hale?" "She came back." Maria kept walking, her shawl fluttering behind her. Her boots, once soaked in mud, now left clean, deliberate prints on the earth. At the porch, Agatha, her late husband's sister, stepped out. She still wore her black mourning dress, but there was nothing mournful about her eyes. "Well," Agatha said, crossing her arms, "look who decided to crawl back." Maria's tone was calm. "Good morning, Agatha." "I thought we made it clear," Agatha said sharply. "You're not welcome here. Thomas is gone. You've got no place, no claim, and no—" "Actually," Maria interrupted softly, pulling a folded paper from her satchel. "About that claim." Agatha froze. Maria unfolded the paper and held it up, the official bank seal shining faintly in the sunlight. "I spoke to Mr. Alden this morning," she said. "Seems the ranch isn't owned by your family alone. It's half mine." For a heartbeat, nobody spoke. Even the chickens scratching at the dirt seemed to stop. Agatha's eyes narrowed. "That's impossible. Thomas would never—" "He did," Maria said, her voice quiet but firm. "He made sure of it before he died. Every piece of land, every animal, every account split evenly." Agatha's face turned pale. "You're lying." "Then call the bank," Maria said simply, handing her the card. "They'll tell you the same." The air grew heavy. Behind Agatha, her brothers stepped onto the porch, watching silently. The eldest, Mark, looked angry enough to spit. "You think a few papers make you one of us again?" he growled. Maria met his glare without blinking. "No, I don't want to be one of you. I just want what's mine." The tension rippled through the yard. Ranch hands stared from a distance, pretending to work but unable to look away. Everyone had heard how she'd been thrown out with nothing but a bag. And now here she stood, dry, composed, unshaken. "Get off my land," Mark snapped. Maria took one calm step forward. "Our land?" The silence that followed hit harder than thunder. Agatha's hand trembled as she gripped the paper. "So what now? You think you can just walk in and take over?" Maria tilted her head slightly. "No, Agatha, I don't think." "I know." Her eyes softened, but her voice was sharp as glass. "And I don't want revenge, not yet. I just want the house Thomas built with his own hands open to his widow again." After a long, brittle silence, Agatha turned toward the door. "Fine, but don't think this changes anything," she spat. "You can stay in the guest room until we sort this out." Maria smiled faintly. "I won't be needing a guest room." Agatha froze mid-step. "Excuse me." "I'll stay in my husband's room," Maria said. "Where I belong." That night, the house was quiet but tense. Maria moved through the halls that once felt warm but now smelled of cold perfume and resentment. She ran her hand across the banister, the walls, the door frames, like reacquainting herself with an old friend who'd forgotten her name. Inside the bedroom, everything was exactly how Thomas had left it. His hat still hung by the mirror, his boots still by the door. But there were signs someone had been in here. Agatha's scarf draped across the chair, a ring box on the table that wasn't hers. Maria didn't touch anything. She just sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the weight of the room pressing down. Then she whispered, "Don't worry, Thomas, I'm home now, and I'll make sure they never take it from us again." Over the next few days, the house turned into a quiet battlefield. Agatha and Mark whispered in corners, trying to find loopholes in the papers. Maria moved through the rooms like a ghost, polite, calm, but watching everything. Every night, she wrote in a small notebook by candlelight. Names, numbers, accounts. The things Thomas had mentioned but they had ignored. She wasn't just grieving anymore. She was calculating. And then, on the 5th morning, the first real sign of war appeared. Agatha stood at the breakfast table, holding a telegram. Her face was white. Mark snatched it from her hand and read it aloud, voice shaking. "Notice of ownership adjustment. Full operational control of Hale Ranch transferred to Mrs. Maria Hale, pending family verification." The fork slipped from Agatha's hand. Maria sipped her tea, calm as the sunrise. "What did you do?" Agatha whispered. Maria set down the cup gently. "I went to the bank," she said. and changed everything. The room went dead silent, and somewhere outside, the wind carried the sound of hooves, the ranch workers already receiving new orders. Maria smiled quietly. "Now," she said, standing, "let's talk about how we'll run our ranch." Cliffhanger for Act 3. Mark slammed his fist on the table. "Over my dead body." Maria turned toward him slowly, her eyes calm, almost pitying. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't have to. "We'll see," she said softly, "because I buried one husband already. I'm not afraid to bury your pride next." "You said." Yes, the sheriff's words hung in the air like smoke. Maria stood by the porch rail, clutching the report he'd handed her. Her eyes traced the inked lines again and again, refusing to believe what they said. Thomas Hale's death wasn't natural. The world seemed to tilt. The steady hum of the wind, the smell of the fields, the faint clatter of dishes from inside, all of it vanished beneath a single, awful truth. Her husband hadn't just died, he'd been helped into his grave. "Who?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The sheriff sighed. A name came up during questioning. Agatha and Mark mentioned a man named Dr. Silas Grant. Local physician, he handled your husband's illness. Maria's heart pounded. Yes, Thomas trusted him. He said Silas was a good man. Seems Silas was more loyal to your in-laws, the sheriff said grimly. Turns out he signed off on false medical reports and slipped him something in his nightly tonic. Enough to keep him weak until he didn't finish. Maria didn't need him to. That night, she lit no candles. She sat alone in the dark, the letter from Thomas in one hand, the sheriff's report in the other. Her husband's handwriting, once a comfort, now burned her fingers. He'd told her to protect what was theirs, but he hadn't known the people he called family had already been digging his grave. She whispered into the silence, "You didn't die of sickness, Thomas. They took you from me." The words didn't echo. They settled deep, cold, final. By dawn, Maria was on her horse, riding toward town. The sky was pink with the first light, the kind that makes the world look innocent again. But there was nothing innocent about where she was headed. The doctor's house stood at the edge of town, white paint peeling, curtains drawn, the brass sign, Dr. Silas Grant, dulled by dust. She dismounted, tied her reins, and walked to the door. When he opened it, his eyes widened. "Mrs. Hale, my goodness, I heard..." Maria raised her hand. "Save your breath, doctor, I've come for answers." He stammered, wiping his spectacles. I don't understand." "Thomas," she said, "you told me he was healing, getting stronger, and yet he died that week. Why?" Silas swallowed hard. "Illness takes turns we can't predict." Maria stepped closer, voice calm but razor sharp. "You poisoned him." The color drained from his face. "That's absurd." "Then why?" she asked, pulling a folded letter from her satchel. "Did you take payment from Agatha Hale 5 days before he died?" She dropped the letter onto the table, the same handwriting she'd memorized from Thomas's papers. Agatha's signature, the amount, the date. Silas's mouth opened, then closed again. "You don't have to admit it," Maria said softly. "You already did." She turned toward the door, her voice low. "The sheriff will arrive by noon. I just wanted to see your face before justice does." Silas took a step forward. "Maria, please." She stopped, facing the sunlight spilling through the door. "When my husband was dying," she said, "he told me he trusted the people around him. That his family and his doctor would look after me when he couldn't. You made a liar of him." Her voice cracked, but she didn't stop. "So I'll make sure his truth stands, even if I have to bury every one of your lies." And she walked out. By afternoon, half the town knew. The sheriff came, cuffs in hand, and led the doctor through the square as people whispered and stared. "Mrs. Hale found the proof," someone said. "She turned the whole family in. She's the one who changed everything." Maria stood on the porch of the bank, watching quietly. There was no smile on her face, only the calm of someone who'd carried too much pain and finally set it down. That evening, she returned to the ranch. The sun was setting, painting the land in gold. She walked past the barn, past the oak tree Thomas had planted when they first married. She stopped by the fence and looked toward the fields, her fields, stretching endlessly into the horizon. The air was peaceful now. The house behind her was silent, but no longer cold. For the first time, she felt something lift from her chest. Later, as she sat on the porch with a cup of tea, Elijah appeared again, leading his horse. "Heard the doctor's been taken in," he said. "Justice came fast this time," Maria nodded. "Not fast enough for Thomas, but enough for me." He studied her quietly. "You gonna stay here alone?" She smiled faintly. "Not alone, his memories everywhere. In the soil, in the walls, even in the wind." Elijah tipped his hat. "You did right, Mrs. Hale, he'd be proud." "I hope so," she whispered. Before leaving, Elijah paused. "Folks'll tell your story one day, you know, the widow who lost everything and took it all back." Maria looked out over the land, the soft wind brushing her hair. "Let them tell it," she said. "But tell them this too, it wasn't revenge that kept me going. It was love that refused to die." Elijah nodded once, then rode off into the fading light. Cliffhanger for Act 6. As night fell, Maria opened the last drawer of Thomas's desk, the one she'd never touched before. Inside lay one more sealed envelope. It was addressed not to her, but to whoever loved her next. Her fingers trembled. She didn't open it. Not yet. She just whispered into the quiet room, "Maybe someday, Thomas." Then she placed the letter back and blew out the candle. The days that followed were quieter, not empty, not lonely, just still. The air over the ranch changed. The fences stood straighter. The horses came when she called. The land, once parched and brittle, began to green again. Maria spent her mornings walking the pastures, her hand brushing against the wheat. Every stalk seemed to hum with life, as if the earth had been waiting for her to come back, not just in body, but in spirit. She wasn't the same woman who'd been thrown out after her husband's death. That woman had been afraid of what she'd lost. This one was finally aware of what she still had. One morning, she sat at Thomas's old desk, the one by the window overlooking the barn. Sunlight warmed the wooden surface, and for the first time in years, she let herself open the final drawer again. The sealed envelope waited inside. She turned it over, tracing the faded ink. "To the one who loves her next." For a moment, she thought of Elijah, his quiet steadiness, the way he looked at her with something unspoken but kind. But she didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, she placed the letter on the windowsill and whispered, "Maybe someday." Because for now, she didn't need anyone else's love to feel whole. Weeks passed. The Hale family name was restored, not through the mercy of others, but through Maria's determination. The townsfolk began coming to her for advice. They called her Mrs. Hale, not as a title of pity, but of respect. Even the sheriff would tip his hat when he passed, saying softly, "Mighty fine to see that ranch thriving again." And when the first harvest came, Maria walked the rows alone, breathing in the scent of life, soil, and second chances. That night, under a sky freckled with stars, she sat on the porch with a lantern beside her. She spoke softly into the air, not to anyone in particular, but to the quiet that used to frighten her and now felt like an old friend. "Thomas," she said, "they thought they could bury me along with you, but all they did was plant me deeper." The wind rose gently, rustling the fields, carrying her words across the land. "Now I've grown roots they'll never pull up." Elijah came by one evening as the light faded gold. He didn't ask to stay. He just stood there, watching her work, his hat in his hands. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked quietly. Maria looked around at the barn, the oak tree, the fields shimmering in the wind. "No," she said with a smile. "This place saved me, and now it's my turn to take care of it." He nodded, smiling softly. "Guess that's what home means." "Home," she echoed, and the word felt full again. When he left, she stood by the fence long after his horse disappeared into the horizon. Then she turned back to the house, her house, and lit a single candle in the window. It burned through the night, a light for the lost, for the broken, for anyone who had ever been told they were done for, a small, steady reminder that it's never too late to rise again. Final line, the moral. They buried her in grief, but she grew back in strength. Because love may die, but devotion learns to live again. The next morning arrived colder than usual, the kind of cold that bites through the skin and into the bones. Maria dressed slowly, not out of hesitation, but calculation. A dark dress. The same black coat from her husband's funeral. To them, it would look like mourning. To her, it felt like armor. She took the satchel from her desk and slipped the papers inside. The proof, the deed, the signatures, everything she needed to reclaim what was hers and what was right. When she stepped outside, Mist clung to the ground like a warning. The road to the Hale farmhouse looked longer than she remembered. But this time, she didn't feel small walking it. The farmhouse loomed ahead, whitewashed walls, wide porch, smoke curling from the chimney. It looked peaceful, but Maria knew peace was often just silence before the storm. Her sister-in-law, Ruth, spotted her first. Ruth was standing by the porch, her lips red as blood and her arms crossed tight. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. "Didn't I tell you?" Maria didn't slow down. She walked right up to the steps, eyes fixed on the door. "Where's your father?" she asked calmly. Ruth scoffed. "You don't belong here anymore. You think showing your face changes that?" Maria stopped. Her voice came out low, steady, the kind that made people listen. "I didn't come here to ask for permission. I came to take what's mine." The air shifted. Ruth laughed. "Yours. You think a pity marriage gave you the right to this ranch? My brother's gone, and so is your claim." Maria reached into her satchel and pulled out the folded paper. She laid it gently on the porch railing. "Then I suppose this means nothing to you," she said. Ruth frowned. "What is that?" "His will," Maria replied softly, "and the deed he signed 6 months before he died." Ruth's face paled. She grabbed the paper, scanning the page. When her eyes found the signature line, she froze. "Joint ownership," Maria said evenly. "Half his, half mine." Behind Ruth, the old man, Mr. Hale SR, appeared in the doorway. His cane thudded once on the floorboards. "What's going on?" Ruth turned, her voice trembling. She's lying. She forged it." Maria held her gaze. "Then call the bank. Ask for Mr. Alden." Minutes later, the sound of horse hooves echoed from the road. A carriage pulled up, and the bank manager himself stepped out, coat buttoned, hat low against the wind. He nodded at Maria, then turned to the Hale family. "I was requested," he said gruffly, "regarding the ownership of this property." Mr. Hale SR stepped forward, his voice sharp. "This woman has no claim. My son," Alden interrupted, lifting the deed. "Your son signed this in my office. I witnessed it personally." The porch fell silent. Only the creaking of the wood and the crows in the distance filled the air. Maria didn't speak. She didn't need to. Every word she could have said was written clearly across their faces: disbelief, anger, fear. Ruth's lips quivered. "This can't be real. He would have told us." Maria stepped closer, her voice low but cutting. "He didn't tell you because he knew what you'd do if he did." Mr. Hale SR slammed his cane on the porch. "You think this changes anything? You think we'll let you stay here?" Maria turned toward him, not with rage, but calm, quiet power. "This ranch isn't yours to let or take," she said. "It's mine by law, and by right." Then she handed him a folded paper. "Consider that the notice. I'll be taking over operations immediately." The old man's voice cracked. "You'll regret this, girl." Maria's eyes softened, not with pity, but finality. "I already regretted trusting you," she said. "But that ends today." She walked past them, into the house she had once been thrown out of. Each step echoed like a closing door. Inside, the air smelled the same lemon oil and dust. Her reflection appeared faintly in the glass of the old family portrait. She was the same woman who had wept outside these walls, but now she carried the storm inside her. Outside, the family argued. Inside, Maria unlocked the office door. The same desk, the same pen, the same ledger. Only now she was the one sitting behind it. She opened the first page of the ranch records and began to write. "Ownership transferred Maria Hale." Her hand didn't tremble once. The light through the window fell across her face, and for the first time in months she truly breathed. Outside, Ruth's voice cracked in disbelief. "She's really doing it." And from the porch, the old man's voice, low, defeated, whispered, "She already has." That was the day the widow they called Nothing became everything. Cliffhanger to final chapter. That night, Maria found a sealed letter inside her husband's desk, written in his hand. The name on it stopped her breath. "To the one who loves her next." She stared at it in silence, the candlelight trembling beside her. Was it a goodbye, or a message meant for her future? The letter sat on the desk all night. Maria couldn't sleep. The house creaked softly around her, familiar sounds, strange after so long. The wind brushed the shutters, and somewhere beyond the window, the ranch horses stirred. She stared at the envelope under the candlelight. The edges had yellowed, but Thomas's handwriting was unmistakable, strong, careful, deliberate. Her hand trembled slightly as she lifted it. To the one who loves her next. The words weren't meant to wound. She could hear his voice in them, that quiet, thoughtful tone that never raised, even in anger. Still, it felt like a whisper from a man halfway between this world and the next. She hesitated for a long time before opening it. The seal broke softly. Inside, his scent still lingered faintly, cedar and smoke. The letter was short, just a few lines. If you are reading this, it means I couldn't stay long enough to keep my promise. I know her heart, it's made of gentleness and fire both. Take care of her, whoever you are. She'll say she doesn't need saving and she'll mean it. But love her anyway, because she's the kind who saves everyone else first. Maria's breath caught halfway through. Her hand covered her mouth as the tears came, quiet, aching tears that tasted of relief more than sorrow. He had known her better than she ever realized. She folded the letter carefully and placed it back inside the envelope. Then she opened the window. The dawn was breaking over the fields, soft pink and gold spreading across the valley. The same land that had once been her prison now looked like freedom. Outside, she saw Elijah near the barn, fixing a loose beam. He turned as if sensing her gaze. Their eyes met across the quiet distance. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he smiled, small, steady, almost shy. And Maria found herself smiling back, not because she needed him, but because maybe, for once, she could let someone walk beside her. Later that morning, the townspeople came to the ranch. Word had spread fast about the papers, the deed, the fall of the Hale family's arrogance. Some came out of curiosity. Others came to apologize. An older woman from the bakery brought a loaf of bread. Didn't believe them when they said you forged it, she murmured. Knew there was something good in you. Maria thanked her quietly, taking the bread, feeling a warmth in her chest she hadn't felt since before the funeral. It wasn't just victory, it was peace. Weeks passed. The ranch thrived again under her care. Workers returned. The animals grew strong. The land itself seemed to breathe easier. Maria found herself at the bank again one morning, but this time not as a desperate widow. She signed new papers, transferring a portion of the profits to help widows in the valley, women who'd been left with nothing when the world turned cruel. When Mr. Alden handed her the document, he said softly, "You've made quite the name for yourself, Mrs. Hale." Maria smiled faintly. Names mean little. It's what we build after we're broken that matters. That evening, she walked the fields barefoot. The wheat swayed around her like a golden sea, the sky painted orange and violet. She stopped by the old oak at the edge of the property, the place where Thomas once carved their initials. Running her fingers over the faded letters, she whispered, "Thank you for believing in me when no one else did." The wind blew softly through the branches, and for a fleeting moment, she swore she felt him there, not in body, but in peace. She returned to the house, lit a single candle in the window, and sat quietly with a cup of tea. The flicker of the flame danced across her face, strong, calm, alive. Outside, the stars were beginning to rise. When Elijah's horse approached the gate, she didn't move to hide. He dismounted, removing his hat. "Evening," he said gently. "Evening," she replied. He looked toward the candle in the window. "You keep that burning every night," she nodded. "For anyone who's lost their way home." He smiled softly. "Then I reckon you'll never be alone again." Maria looked at him, then at the horizon glowing under the stars. Maybe, she thought, this was what starting over really looked like, not forgetting the past, but carrying it forward with gentleness. The next morning, when the sun rose, the ranch shimmered gold. The house stood tall. The fields were full. And on the porch, Maria stood, not as the widow who'd been cast out, but as the woman who'd rebuilt her world from ruin. She looked over her land and whispered, "I'm home." Final moral line. They buried her in grief, but she grew back in strength, because the ones who lose everything often become the ones who own themselves completely. The ranch was quiet that morning. Dew clung to the wheat, and the air smelled of earth and rain from the night before. Maria walked slowly along the fence line, her boots sinking slightly into the damp soil. She touched the wooden posts as she passed, smooth, worn from years of care. Each one felt like a memory, a heartbeat of the land she now truly owned. Inside, the house smelled faintly of bread and cedar. She placed the final documents in the desk drawer, deeds, ledgers, and letters that secured her life and the futures of those she wanted to help. Every paper a small victory, every signature a reminder that she had reclaimed not only property but dignity, trust, and control over her own story. The wind shifted, carrying a sound she hadn't heard in years, children laughing in the distance. A neighbor's family had moved nearby, and the valley was slowly filling with life again. Maria paused at the window, watching them play in the field. Their joy reminded her of what she had fought for, a place where love, safety, and hard work could thrive. Elijah appeared in the yard, leaning casually against the fence. "Looks like the ranch agrees with you," he said softly. Maria turned, smiling. "It's not the ranch that's changed, Elijah, it's me." He studied her for a moment, then nodded. "You've done more than survive. You've built something lasting. That takes courage." She crossed the yard to him, the morning sun glinting off her hair. "I learned from the past," she said, "but I'm not chained to it anymore." He nodded quietly. "And Thomas, he'd be proud." Her eyes softened. "He is. Every time I look at this land, every time I see it thriving, I feel him here. Not in grief, not in sorrow, but in hope." Later that afternoon, she sat beneath the old oak tree, the one with their initials carved into the bark. The wind stirred the branches, and the golden light made the letters glow faintly. She reached into her satchel and touched the sealed envelope Thomas had left for the one who loves her next. She had never opened it again. She didn't need to, because she realized something vital. Some promises aren't meant to be read. They're meant to guide you silently until you understand their meaning for yourself. Maria looked out over her fields, feeling a deep, unshakable calm. The house, the ranch, the land, all hers. But more importantly, so was her heart. Her life wasn't defined by loss anymore. It was defined by what she had built from it. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in streaks of orange and violet, she stood at the porch steps, breathing deeply. A soft voice carried from the valley, Elijah calling, "Evening, Maria." She smiled, lifting her head to the sky. "Evening," she replied. The wind carried her words across the golden fields. "I'm free, I'm home. And I'll never let anyone take that again." Final closing moral. The first frost of winter had just kissed the edges of the fields. Maria walked barefoot through the thin layer of frost, feeling it crunch underfoot. Each step was deliberate, grounding her to the land she had fought to reclaim. The ranch had survived her storm, and now it was thriving. Cows grazed in the pastures, the barn doors swung freely on their hinges, and the orchard glistened with frost-covered apples, heavy and sweet. Inside the house, Maria's hands were busy. She cleaned Thomas's old study, placing books back on the shelves and arranging letters and papers into neat stacks. Every object told a story, some of sorrow, some of love, but all of survival. And for the first time, she could touch them without feeling a pang of grief. Elijah appeared at the porch, leaning casually against the railing. "You really settled in, haven't you?" he said softly. Maria looked up, smiling faintly. "It's not just settling, it's reclaiming. Every corner, every nail, every page of this ranch belongs to me now, and I plan to keep it that way." He nodded. "You've done more than most could imagine. I never doubted you, but I didn't think anyone could do it like this." She laughed softly, a sound that carried warmth. "I didn't just want it back, I wanted to make it better, safer, fairer, for anyone who might need it one day." The sun was low in the sky, casting long shadows over the land. Maria walked to the oak tree, now stronger and whiter than ever. She ran her fingers over the initials she and Thomas had carved. Her heart tightened for a moment, thinking of him, but the grief was no longer sharp. It was softened, transformed into resolve. She whispered to the empty fields, "I will grow what you dreamed of, Thomas. I will protect it. And I will thrive." That evening, she walked to the bank in town. The manager greeted her warmly, handing over additional documents for the ranch's expansions. She signed each one carefully, ensuring the land was secure for generations. On her way back, children waved from the streets. Farmers tipped their hats. Neighbors stopped to thank her for helping widows and families in need. Maria realized that the ranch was no longer just land. It had become a sanctuary, a symbol of resilience. Back at the house, she placed a final candle in the window, steady, unwavering. It was more than light. It was a signal. A promise. A promise that she would protect her home, her people, and her story. That night, she sat on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the stars appear one by one. Elijah appeared at the gate, nodding silently at the glow from the window. Maria lifted her cup to him in a quiet toast. "To beginnings," she whispered. "To survival," he replied softly. "To what we choose to grow from the ashes," she added. And for the first time, the future felt like hers completely. Winter's first snow had begun to fall, dusting the fields and rooftops with a quiet, delicate white. Maria stood at the porch, watching the flakes drift lazily to the ground. Each one felt like a small victory, fragile, yet undeniable. The land was hers, the ranch thriving, and yet she knew that true change wasn't just about possession. It was about what she could do with it. In town, word of her reclamation spread like wildfire. Farmers came to ask for advice. Widows and young mothers approached her for help. And even the Hale family, humbled and defeated, kept their distance, whispering her name with a mix of fear and admiration. Maria welcomed those who needed guidance, but she never wavered. She spoke clearly, acted decisively, and always remembered Thomas's words. "Strength is not just in survival, it's in what you create after." That afternoon, she met Elijah at the edge of the orchard. "I didn't think the town would ever warm up to you like this," he said, adjusting the straps on his coat. Maria smiled faintly. "It isn't about warming up to me. It's about trust. They see that I stand for more than myself now." He studied her quietly. "You've changed more than anyone imagined, including yourself." She looked out over the snow-covered fields. "I have. I had too." The ranch hands called out from the barn. The new herd had arrived, and the horses stamped their feet against the cold. Maria walked to them, letting her fingers brush against the animals' coats. A small boy followed, clutching a notebook. "Mrs. Hale," he said timidly, "will you teach me how to run the ranch someday?" Maria knelt to his level, smiling gently. "If you're ready to work hard and care for it as much as I do, yes." He beamed. And in that simple gesture, Maria felt the weight of her victory settle into something warmer. It wasn't just for her, it was for the future she could nurture. That night, Maria returned to the study. She opened the letter Thomas had left again, the one addressed to the one who loves her next. For the first time, she didn't feel the ache of loss. Instead, she felt a thread of connection, a reminder that love, even after death, guides those who remain. She folded the letter carefully, placing it back in its drawer. Some promises, she realized, were meant to be carried quietly, not opened and consumed. By the fire, with the snow falling gently outside, Maria finally allowed herself a small smile. She had faced betrayal, loss, and injustice. She had been cast out, humiliated, and underestimated. But she had risen. And now her life, her land, her people, and her heart was hers to shape. Outside, the wind swept through the valley, carrying with it the scent of pine, snow, and possibility. Maria stepped to the porch, hands on the railing, watching the moonlight glint off the white fields. It was quiet, peaceful, and for the first time in months, she felt the kind of calm that wasn't empty, it was earned. Closing moral for Chapter 15. True power isn't taken. It's grown from patience, courage, and the willingness to pee.